And pledge allegiance.
Pat.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would anybody like to offer an invocation?
I will. Ready?
I'm almost ready.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this meeting. Thank you for what you've done with this fire district. Pray that you would keep your hand over us and keep things going good. Bless every one of our board members. We trust this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gary. Roll call. Risa.
Yep.
Kent.
Yes.
George. Here. Bob. Here. Steve.
We lost Steve.
Pardon me?
We lost Steve.
Yeah. Steve had a minor outpatient surgery today, so he's not here.
Guess we'll forgive you, man.
Yeah, I think it was going to get him back. Has everybody read the minutes?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Many
Kent, have you read these minutes? Or do we need to take a moment to read them? George?
I haven't read them.
I can take a moment to read it.
You read them because you criticized me.
Oh, that. Yeah, I read them thoroughly. Sorry.
So there.
Thank you, Reese, for getting them out early enough for me to read them.
Oh, yeah. Nothing's changed. Mhm.
You guys have to scoot together a little bit. There you go. I think we got you now. Yeah, that's better.
Okay. If I nod off, just say something loud.
We'll scream.
Okay.
That'll get you.
October 2nd, board meeting.
Somebody want an extra copy? You want a copy? I have
There's
it.
still some copies here, George. I made
Oh,
extras.
okay.
I made extras.
I just saw her sitting out there without.
Whenever everybody's ready, they make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All those opposed? Old business, tonight we're going to put on the stamps and labels. So we're going to do that as soon as the meeting's over for the newsletter send out. Reese, you want to update us on what's going on with the water meter change and the hydrant information?
I talked to Chuck Kaler again, and since we have to come under the cyclone fence, what they do is they have a two-man crew, and they work with UBW, and the actual cost of the hydrant so far is $35.50
At a total?
for his part, yes. Now, UBW, like I said, we have to decide how we want to disperse the certificate for the 1.5 meter and what we want to ask for it or try to get for it.
Uh-huh.
And then the cost that UBW will charge us to replace it with the 3/4 inch. Because everything has to be done at the same time to keep the cost down. Because UBW comes in, they dig everything up, they bare their line, so that Kaler and his other guy can come in and then hook up a hydrant to it.
So what other costs are there other than the $35.50?
Well, whatever the UBW is going to be, because they have to come in and, I've talked to Brad and they're not sure, they haven't given me an estimate. And I keep asking them if they could do
It was
it,
expensive.
well,
It was quite expensive when I had it
as in,
over. Huh?
how much?
I don't remember back in the 80s how much it was, but I know now it'd be expensive, because it really is then.
Yeah, but like I said, the only thing that might be a little more here is because they have to come under the fence, but it's on our side of the road.
Also, now the department has money, and remember then we didn't even have a budget or any taxes.
Right.
So
That fence can come down pretty
it
easy.
really is.
Well, that's what I said, we could probably, well, that's the other thing we have to look into, is can we just peel it back? Okay, so I will tell them that, because all that stuff makes a difference.
As long as you don't have to go underneath the post.
Yes, Karen?
I have another question. How necessary is the second hydrant being that close to the other?
Yeah. I think the point would be, have you ever seen a fire station without one, except Lookingglass?
Well, it was right across the street from the old station.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, maybe we gotta start thinking about that.
Well, but these
But
are
how
all the things that
necessary
are,
is-
as I said, these are all the things that we're just talking
How
over.
necessary is the second hydrant?
Say that again.
How necessary is that second hydrant? There's another one right down there yet.
And talking with Steve, he thought it was a great idea. That way you don't have to send the trucks out.
He
Plus,
thinks it's a great idea because then he can do practices and he doesn't have to leave the property.
exactly his point.
But they need to know how to do things like that too.
Well, there's also another question, is if you don't have a hydrant here that's usable, should you maintain the standpipe that is costing money?
How much is that standpipe costing you?
About $80 a month more than we would pay for a smaller meter.
Plus, if they use any of the water, it's all our nickel.
Right.
If they
you
use the
can't-
water on a hydrant, we don't pay for
It's
that.
free.
And the other point, excuse me,
Go ahead.
the other point is, when we sell the certificate, it will more than offset the cost of what we're spending to put it in. Plus the selling of the meter.
Yeah, see, we're trying to decide what we should ask.
All
Right
right.
now, an 1.5 inch meter,
I'm sorry, I guess I'm stupid. I don't understand what you're selling.
the 1.5 inch certificate UBW we have now with them,
For what?
our water, our standpipe is an 1.5 inch meter. That's what comes into here.
Okay.
And
If
that's-
I may for a moment. In Umpqua Basin water, in order to have water under your property, you have to own a water certificate.
Right.
Okay? The certificate that currently is on this property is for an 1.5 inch service. That costs about $13,000. Okay, that's sellable. If someone else in the area of Umpqua Basin Water would like to have an 1.5 inch service, they're gonna pay whatever the current rate is for that, which is probably more than $13,000. If we could sit there and sell it for half price, you pocket $6,500. Just to give you for instance. Then you go out and buy a 3/4 inch service, which is say $4,000. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but then you also have to get the connection fees and everything else to go with the permit.
That's why we're looking into doing a hydrant also too.
The hydrant and the connection.
Mhm. That's why we're getting all the numbers. Everything is a value judgment.
Yeah. If we can get things even straight across and have a hydrant and a smaller meter, you're way ahead. Because like I said, you can use the hydrant,
The big
no
one.
fee.
And if you can sell that certificate.
Right. Well, that's why I said, this might take us, 6 more months. We're just starting this. We're not making any decisions yet because we haven't seen if anybody's willing to buy it or trade.
It's on the
it.
back burner then.
Well, yeah, it's not, yeah, it's,
All right.
we're
Well,
just
and
moving
while it's on the
along.
back burner, that meter's costing us $1,200. a year, more than we need to be paying. So there are all those little pieces to this puzzle.
So the new meter isn't gonna cost you anything?
It'll be
It'd be
$18.
$1,200 less.
Yeah, it'll be $18 a month base price instead of $96.50 a month base price. That's the difference.
So you don't have to pay a monthly fee then?
Yeah, it's what she just said, it's $18 for the new meter a month, and we're paying $96 now for this meter.
And then if you use it too much, you get charged too, so that's part of the problem.
That's right.
Yeah, Bruce?
And we're not using that $96 worth of water.
Not at all.
No, we're not
no.
using that water at all.
No,
That's
we're
right.
not.
Yes, Yvonne?
Did we ask Steve one time if the building actually belongs to us, or is it still the county?
It belongs to
It's
us.
ours,
to the
it's
fire.
ours.
Fire.
The county wasn't gonna want
No,
No,
their fingers in that
no,
meter.
no.
no, that's a very good point. No, that was 2 meetings ago when he said that.
And I thought we did that.
Yeah, no, I would not have pursued this.
So we still need to get more, and are we stuck with this guy that's the installer?
No, he's just one of the people that I
Okay.
got
I'm just curious, 'cause-
the first bid from. That's why, you know.
Umpqua Basin won't totally do the job.
No, they don't deal in hydrants,
They'll
which I
just
found odd, but they don't.
They'll just cut into the main line, put in a T and a valve,
Exactly,
and we pay for that, and then
Yes.
have to get somebody to go from there.
yes. That's where Chuck Kaler comes in.
But Umpqua Basin hasn't wanted to give us an estimate on putting in that valve?
Not yet, because I've left 2 messages for Brad, and he hasn't gotten back to me.
Okay, so we'll hear about that again next week.
Reason? Is it my understanding that the inch-and-a-half permit that you have on that, there are only so many in the district? so-
Oh, yes, there are very,
And
there
so
aren't any
it
out
has a
there.
resale value and a
Yeah.
demand for it, not just, hoping by golly.
Yeah, because Umpqua Basin is not selling anymore,
Mhm.
and the 1.5 meters, that's why it's worth so much.
And it's not just Lookingglass, Umpqua Basin's got water.
Anywhere,
Anywhere in
Areas.
the Umpqua Valley District
right.
could use it.
Yes, Gary?
It cost us almost $15,000 before for the 3 hydrants. But they got a deal, bought 2 hydrants and the outfit gave them a 3rd one. So that was over $5,000 a piece then,
Mhm.
total.
Yeah, that's why I said, we're just moving along this at a certain
Yeah.
pace, because, if somebody's gonna tell me it's gonna be 10 grand to do this, I'm gonna go,
Well, Umpqua Basin didn't do anything on those, I don't think.
no, they don't.
They didn't even cut into the line.
Well, this guy said they will, because we have to have the other meter changed out.
Yeah.
So they have to do that anyway, to put the 3/4 on from the 1.5 inch, so.
They could just go they wouldn't have to go to the main line. They could just take the meter out and reduce down there and put the,
They could do that, yeah.
so they would.
Yeah, that's another alternative if we don't go with the hydrant.
But we want to probably be careful, because if we're responsible for anything, that main line is a transite, about 45 years old. Life expectancy was 35 years on it.
Yeah.
You cut it off, cut in a T, and turn it off, turn it back on, you're liable to have it. So we want to make sure we're not
But if it's on
responsible.
their side, that's their problem.
As long as on the hydrant, it's not ours.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, Karen?
When I got together with probably some water, I had to find out how much it was gonna cost. And he gave me a ballpark figure. Unfortunately, when it came in, it was twice that. So,
Like I said, we're just,
make sure you get in there. A real-
well, we would want written,
a written yes.
yeah, written costs
From
with signatures.
From Basin Water, yes.
Well,
Yeah. Okay.
Right now, we're paying when they use that 1.5 inch standpipe. When they use it for training or washing down trucks, it goes through our meter. So we're paying for that.
For the water. And you won't be paying for the other meter?
Because we'll use the hydrant.
Right.
You pay for the meter, not the hydrant.
You'll only be using it for the toilet. How much can the toilet use? Yeah, maybe
Hopefully
using
they
it
use
for,
it for that.
for a spigot around the building.
Okay.
I mean, you weigh the two, it's a no-brainer, really.
But now, we're not paying anything more than the minimum every month, right?
So far.
Yeah.
Well, we have gone over a couple
Have we?
times. Yeah, we have gone over a couple times. UVW said that
Yeah.
Lyle went back and looked in the records.
If we've gone over with that, we're gonna go way over with the small meter.
No, not if we have the hydrant, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll let you,
Yeah, see, we're not going to remove the 1.5 meter if we don't put in the hydrant. It wouldn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
right,
It's an either or. That's-
Yeah.
So does everybody understand, kind of picture how this is working now? That hydrant is basically free water.
yeah.
As long as the hydrant's there, they can use it, and there's no charge for that. But we take out the standpipe, that eliminates the water that costs through the 1.5 meter. Yeah, Bruce?
And that also, Steve said the other day, that also would put a lot of people within the 1,200 feet of that into the 6 from the 8.
When we get to the ISO discussion, we'll have a discussion on it, because that's not true.
That's not true?
No. ISO's officer informed us that the Lookingglass has a tanker credit, and the tanker credit negates the hydrant credit. So at least half of the insurance companies currently using ISO don't recognize the 1,000 foot within a hydrant.
Bob,
Okay.
wouldn't it still, if your insurance did consider that, wouldn't it help if you know, like
Oh,
somebody...
it would, but we
you know,
just
like-
can't make a blanket statement like that
Yeah.
that it's going to.
No, but I'm just saying, someone like Jerry that lives within this realm might be able to say to his insurance company, oh, they've got a hydrant now, and they might care.
Well, sure.
I don't know.
The way ISO is working in Oregon is Jerry could ask his insurance company for a 4, and he has just as much of a chance to get it as he does a 6. Because that's how they're working now.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
I mean, within 8 houses of my house, there are 4 different ISOs.
It's just, it might be something you could
So,
point out, and
it just-
they might listen, they might not.
But that's a misnomer,
Okay.
that deal about the hydrants. And that's something we can't just put out a blanket message like that, because that's how they were sold in the first place. And as it's turned out, that's really not true. And anybody here can call ISO and talk to them about it. It's just not really true. If we didn't have the tankers, it would be true. But since we have the tankers, it's not true. And you would think that if you had both, it would even be that much better. Oh no, they don't think that way. So that's why we're going to have this ISO analysis, which is down farther on our list. So any other questions on this? If not, Risa, you're just going to keep checking on that and report back at the next meeting?
Yep.
And this thing is, it's a, not really a back burner thing, but it's something that's going to happen down the line. We got more foundation stuff to do here. Stipend research, you want to give us any update on that, Bruce? And we'll kind of...
I've sent out probably 10 emails to different departments that I just kind of geographically picked by size, and I've got back 2 responses, none with any numbers. I've got some numbers from the people I called, and it seems like that most of the departments are staying under that $599 a year for the tax, 1099 tax thing, so they don't have to mess with that. They don't have to do taxes. So they're just split it up at different systems. There's not any 2 of them I found alike. So, and with the calls we get, if we say a number around $3, then we would probably stay underneath that for the calls and the number of people they have.
Okay, cool.
That's what I
I would like
so
to,
far.
I would like to table this discussion until we get done with our initial A through P list, and then bring this back and put it up for discussion at that time. This will give us all something to think about. This $599 a year per person is kind of a max number. So, fiduciary policy draft final. We got this thing pretty much done, I think, don't we?
Well, Steve's going to put it up as a PowerPoint next week for the first reading at a regular business meeting.
Okay. Does anybody here have questions about this? We made the few changes we talked about at the last meeting. So the first reading of this document will be at the regular board meeting. And then the second reading will be at the November meeting. So, okay, good. Steve's not here, so we don't do that. We have anything to talk about treasurer-wise, Kent?
I have a report for Steve. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Oh, okay.
Because I was going to read his report that he sent everybody on his email.
Cool.
Okay? I will not be able to attend due to a hospital visit outpatient on Wednesday. I'll leave the completed inventories for the vehicles and the PPE as well as the mutual aid, automatic aid report and supporting material on the counter in the station. As far as the chief's report, it has been quiet. Burning is going on without incident. Our garage door opener for 1070 and 1080 is broken and Vanell has been called with a delayed response, but we can open it manually. We have a flat tire on 1061 handled by Industrial Tire on site for $40 plus the cost of a valve stem. I put that on the debit card and we are opening an account with Industrial Tire for future emergencies. They give FDs, fire districts, a deal and respond to the call as a priority. Attached, please find the report on mutual automatic aid. Hard copies of the actual agreements will be at the station. The other analyses will have to be done at the next meeting as I will not be there to discuss them. If you need anything else, let me know. I'll be at the station early Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to meet the roll-up door repair company. There are again no later pending bills to sign from the department side. We're continuing the access survey of our area as discussed previously. This Thursday night will be medical training for drill night.
Anybody have any comments or questions about that? Okay, now Ken, got anything under treasurers that we need to yak about?
Only a few items. We picked up stamps for the newsletter, which we talked about previously. Those are $276. Risa worked with Staples to copy the 600 copies of the newsletter. That ran us $83.98. George arranged for the labels with the county, and that was $34.74. And those are all the expenses that I know of related to the newsletter. Envelopes cost a bunch, but we already had those.
Have we already paid those bills? We're gonna pay those at the next meeting, or?
We can pay them
Those
tonight.
are just reimbursement deals, we can do them tonight?
The stamps were already paid for.
Okay.
We made out a check that I took to the postmaster. So that's a done deal.
Well, how about we just make this real formal, and I need a motion to pay these three bills, just to make it official. Get $276 for the stamps, $83.98 for the staples, and $34.74 for the labels.
I make a motion that we pay the bills tonight.
Have a second?
I'll second
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
it. Aye.
Yeah. Any new business that anybody has that we need to be aware of?
I have 3 bids on a self-inking stamp so that we can fix the one that's been in there with the wrong zip code for however many years it's been since the zip code changed. The one from Staples is $22.99. These are all the same for a 3-line Lookingglass Road Fire District, or 2-line address after that. There's 2 different prices at Office Depot, $19.99 or $21.99, depending on how big. And then at Mid-Oregon, their larger one is only $19.
What was the name of that third one?
Mid-Oregon Printing downtown. So I would like to have some discussion on getting this done as soon as possible, because I don't like continuing to stamp things with the old zip code.
So the Mint Oregon or whatever it is the least expensive one?
Yes,
And these are all basically the same stamp?
they're all basically the same stamp.
Okay.
I can send them any font we want.
No, that's too dangerous.
It's only
We need
because
we need a motion
font.
to approve buying this stamp.
I make a motion that we buy this new return address stamp from Mid-Oregon.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We got any communications anybody knows about? No? Good. We'll skip the driveway access because Steve's not here. Did anybody just by chance read his report that he gave? And want to comment on it, or do y'all want to wait until, it'll probably be better for him to be here?
I think he should give it.
Okay. There are some things, questions that he raised that I think are worthy of discussion. So we'll table that till next time. Next week. And we have the asset inventory is basically done. Is that correct, George?
Yes, we have.
Okay. This asset inventory just becomes a reference inventory, and it'll go into the file here into our operations manual. And it's just, we needed a place to start so we know what we have. And so now we basically know everything that's in this building and everything that's on those trucks out there. So that's kind of cool. Kind of eye-opening how much things there are. Not a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things. And and that's available for anybody to peruse if they like.
Whoa.
Yes, ma'am?
Where are you storing the backup for this?
A backup
The
for,
inventory.
what do you mean a backup?
Where is it written? Where do you have it?
Right now it's a hard copy and it's also on a computer.
Where is the computer?
Computer's in the office right there.
Make a hard copy and take it someplace else, please.
Just in case the place burns down. We also have a
I
safe,
have known of 2 firehouses that have burned down.
yeah, we also have a firebox in there. Okay. That is a good idea to have a backup copy somewhere.
For insurance purposes even.
Well, the other thing we probably ought to do too, just for insurance purposes, is also photograph as much of it as we can. So backup.
It'd be really embarrassing to have a firehouse burn down.
Hey,
Yeah, it happens.
it happens. It happened in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and I watched it burn down. They were out on a call, and it burned down.
Oh my goodness.
Can happen.
Okay, what we're going to start next, we're trying to get through these items A through P. As of tonight, we are effectively through item L, other than the access road, which is ongoing. That's going to take a while to do. So we're going to begin item M, N, O, and P. Item M is fire versus emergency medical analysis, which is actually going to be, I think, pretty slam dunk. It's all that is what's the ratio. I mean, that really is the analysis. Yes.
Under that, George and I talked earlier, Jerry, and it would be, I don't know how hard this will be for you, but the legend, when you do the difference between the medical and the fire and all that stuff, could you make the legend a little bigger for people? So, because it's kind of hard to read you know, the little bitty dots that show the color to tell us what it is?
I can try. I don't
Okay.
know if that's an option in the program.
Okay,
I'll try.
okay, because, yeah,
If it's not, then you won't do it.
yeah, I mean, if you can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just noticed that that was one thing that was a little bit hard for some people to see is the color, what the colors mean. I mean, I know, but,
Right. And that's why browsers have a function for zooming in.
but
Oh,
not
plus,
everybody knows that.
Jerry,
Yes.
they're two color blues, but they're so close together, you have a hard time distinguishing one from the other.
Okay. I'll
If we
work
could
on
get the
color
proper one darker.
differences.
Men are colorblind.
I'm not even gonna go into that one. Nope. And just back to the fire versus emergency medical, is just in round numbers, it's about 85% medical, the calls that this district makes. That's over the last 3 years. But we just need to get a little bit more into that and start looking at, you know, if we're 85% medical and we're 15% fire, how do we structure what we do? That's kind of where we have to go with that. Mutual aid analysis, we've got a document here that Steve has worked up. It's basically an overview of how the mutual aid works, and we just got those to us tonight. So next meeting we'll have this a little bit more down pat, and we'll discuss the mutual aid agreements at length, both this one and the Douglas County one that we also just got. The ISO analysis will probably be next in line, and that ought to be an interesting conversation. This whole ISO discussion is the education that I've gotten on that over the last 2 months is it's the most bizarre thing you've ever had to deal with, because there is no standard. There really is no standard. And everybody keeps calling this standards, but it's not. Every insurance company basically has the option to adjust the ISO rating of every client any way they want. If you're a good client and you've got 16 insurance policies with that guy, he can give you a 6. I can walk through the door, live right next door, have a better house, a newer house, a pond for water, all the stuff that you need, a 12-foot wide driveway, all that junk, and I can get an 8. So it's just interesting how that works. And I'll just toss out here something for you folks, because you're kind of the hardcore folks that show up here every so often, is that the whole concept of the ISO is that you have to have standards to adjust or assess an insurance policy rate for their premium. But the biggest question for this district is this district established to enhance the ISO district, or is this district established to fight fires and provide emergency medical service? That's really the question. Well, if it's both, there's no way they can do the first. Because everything that you do does not guarantee a better rating. So, that's what this whole ISO analysis is going to be about. And it's going to be very interesting, because trying to get someone to actually say, here's how it is in Lookingglass is almost impossible. Yeah?
Well, did you want to read that one paragraph? Because it pretty much explains it, what he wrote.
You may if you like.
Oh, okay. I mean, this is from Steve, so it's not my words. The LRFD has a formal written automatic aid agreement with Douglas County Fire District 2 only. This agreement was requested by DCFD 2 in 2010, and the reasoning for it arose from their pursuit of an ISO rating change. ISO will recognize units or water supply under an automatic aid plan, but the agreement must be written and pre-arranged, have units responding to reported structure fires on the initial alarm, be provided 24 hours a day, 365 a year, and have common mobile and portable radio communications. Travel distance 5 miles or more negate any ISO rating benefits in this agreement.
You don't have a mutual aid in Winston? or?
Well,
This wasn't a mutual aid, this
No,
is the automatic
This is
aid.
automatic aid, but
They're
I'm just
different.
saying, this is part of what's the problem with ISO, because if they have really odd rules.
What that automatic aid is, as I understand it so far, believe me, this is an interesting education, is that if you want to have an ISO rating and you don't have the number of pieces of equipment or the amount of water tankers or the pumping capabilities, you can have an automatic aid agreement with somebody else. And if they agree 24/7, 365 days out of the year to meet that agreement, then you can count their equipment. If they're unwilling to do that, then you can't count it, and consequently your ISO rating remains at the level that it is at previously. The mutual aid agreement, that's you all can take a look at it, it's on the counter there right now, we just got it. I think that there's like 15 fire departments here that all have a mutual aid agreement together. And they're all listed right there, and then wherever the signatory was is listed on the signature page. So it's two different subjects. And then the 5 mile thing is that pretty much no matter what the ISO is, no matter what it is, it's only good for 5 miles. 5 miles from the station. You go outside of 5 miles, you're automatically a 10.
Just like
that. Automatically a 10. Unless your insurance company thinks otherwise. Your insurance company decides that, you keep good care of your place and there's no brush and, no overhanging of trees and all of that, good access. They have the right to say your premium is the same as if you were an 8. Okay? But that 5 mile limit is gospel. They don't have to have an ISO rating below a 10 outside of 5 miles. So, and that's about the limit of my knowledge of ISO as of right now. We're trying to get someone that can come in and actually tell us, one of these ISO investigators, but so far that hasn't really happened. And it's interesting because ISO is actually began over in like Geneva, is where, when you look at ISO, yeah. They're very, very big in encompassing and establishing standards. And as Steve said, anybody's here last week, is Oregon is actually looking at doing what Washington has done, is they've abandoned ISO. And Oregon is thinking about doing the same thing, but that's a double-edged sword too, because they could come out with worse standards or more stringent standards than you currently have, and it could still affect your insurance premiums. So that's what the ISO analysis is going to be when we finally get to it. The last item P, that we'll get to after the ISO is fire regulation. Boy, my mouth just isn't working. Fire regulation applicability and adoption analysis. And basically what that is that every fire district has the right to adopt their regulations. They can say, yeah, we're going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. And we don't know what that is. We don't know what is currently formally adopted for this district. And either we have to find out or we have to adopt it. So NFPA, for instance, National Fire Protection Agency, is not a mandatory regulation. That is not a regulatory body. It's a set of recommended. And then you just say, we'd like to do that. It's kind of like Uniform Building Code, same thing. You can go by Uniform Building Code, or you can use parts of it and rewrite your own as a city. So we need to get to a point where we know what that is, because that trickles back all the way through the ISO stuff. It trickles all the way back through the medical and fire response stuff. So once we get that one done, we should have a pretty good foundation set up for where we are with this district.
I believe the state has adopted some of NFPA standards. And I think it's on maybe the Secretary of State.
Well, the state fire marshal agrees with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. That there are portions of it that have been adopted.
Right.
The interesting thing about that is do you remember Steve's conversation about the whole fire marshal thing? Is that if they're not willing to enforce it, then it's not adopted. That's kind of how that goes. If you're willing to enforce it locally to a certain level, then you locally adjust it to that level. And then you have to do that whole fire marshal thing that Steve was talking about before, where he either has to be the fire marshal or he has to appoint someone to do the fire marshal and coordinate with the state fire marshal. It gets pretty convoluted as you go through it. So we want to try and make it to where it's understandable, it keeps everybody safe, and we all know exactly what we're responsible for. Okay, any questions about any of that stuff? We'll start getting to that stuff at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Any good of the order? Anybody? Yeah, Bruce?
I set up a YouTube account, and I did a little test video and put it on there and deleted it after I got it up. It was, and it seems to work well, so we need to decide what we want to put on there. I've got videos from last year.
Okay. Everybody understand what Bruce is talking about? Yeah. So we now can have all of these meetings, not only the meetings since we've been in office, but previously, can now be available on YouTube in their entirety. Yes?
I would suggest that we do not put the one on where everyone resigned.
Aww.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Well,
Right.
shouldn't we just maybe start from July?
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
I think that everything prior to July is prior to July.
I mean, I think it would be more positive, actually.
Well, and then that's all this board has been responsible for. Yeah, Bruce?
Yeah, and there's a limit I can put on, like two a day or so many a week, so I can start.
Well, I would think that if we were gonna put them on, if we're going to do these weekly meetings, then they would only stay on for a week. But once we get to the once a month, back to regular meetings,
Yeah.
then we would just do them once, every month they would change. Because I think if they stay up for a month, that's more than enough time for people to go and see them.
Yeah. Or I can just put them all on there, and when we get to the monthly meetings, I'll take the last, or Jerry can take the last one off and put the next one on.
That'd be good.
That's basically what,
Yeah.
yeah. So we ought to have a motion for how we're gonna do this. Yes, Jerry?
Okay, I just like to make sure that previous meetings, once they're taken off or ones that aren't being put up on YouTube, are they being archived somewhere in case some community member wants to come in and see the contentious board meeting where people resigned or something else? They want to be clear on what happened.
She wants a
So
copy.
are they being saved?
Well, the reality of the contentious board meeting is that wasn't, that video was not done by this district.
Oh,
So this district has no ownership nor responsibility of it. Since we've begun, we actually do have ownership and responsibility for the video.
oh.
So since July 10th, that is how that is. Somebody wants a copy of the previous one, any of the previous ones, they would either have to buy it from Bruce, because he owns the ones he did, or from Taj Gumbart, who came in and did them all when the previous board was here. Yes, Bart?
There are no minutes for any of that either. I don't believe any of the minutes were ever put up when they resigned and all that.
That's right. There are some minutes.
They just were never
It's just,
posted.
Well, Jerry and I went and scoured for just about everything that we could find, and I think they're complete now.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
The only one that really never got corrected was the one that,
June.
was the June meeting that Janie Germond did. She did not ever finish that.
And Jerry was gonna put a disclaimer on that one because we couldn't find a corrected
Mhm.
minutes. We never could, so.
Yeah, I've never gone on further back, so I didn't realize that those were.
No, we
Yeah,
caught
we're
up.
pretty complete now.
Yeah, except for June,
Yeah.
as they're saying, they're all
Good job.
on. Yeah. They should be. If you're finding you can't access something, please let me know.
Yeah.
Sure, will do.
Okay.
And there
I
was-
I will probably within the next few days, as Risa said, get the June one up with the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Right, but there was no October of last year, because that was when they didn't have a quorum to meet, and the board, the commissioners had not appointed Steve Hamill yet. So there's no October of last year because there was no meeting.
Right.
But everything else is in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great.
Okay, so we need to have a motion to put the videos on, and from when do we begin in the motion and that type of thing.
I would like to move that we start the videos with the July 2013 meeting, and that they stay on for a period, the weekly meetings stay on for, well, how many can you put on, Bruce, before I finish?
I don't think there's a limit.
There's no.
Okay, well, I would say that a month is long enough for any meeting to stay on.
All right, so shall we just clean the slate at just before every monthly meeting? Everything that's on there gets wiped off while we're doing the weekly and the monthly?
I would say so.
As opposed to wiping the weeklies weekly?
Well, no, I'm just saying, if you start with a weekly meeting, then it stays on for a month, and like Bruce was saying, when another one comes on at the 5th week, that other one goes off. You see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
just from one into the other, so.
Yeah.
So then they don't get wiped off at the next monthly meeting. You want them to stay on for 4 weeks?
Each one, yes. I would think they would give people enough time then to be able to view each one. And so, like, for instance, this meeting would get wiped next week if you did it at the regular board meeting, and then it wouldn't be up long enough for people to see it. But this one would get wiped at the November regular
I
board
just want to
meeting.
make sure my notes are correct.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So the motion is to start July 10th, and we keep anything on there, no matter whether it was a weekly or a monthly meeting, is on for a month, and then it's taken off.
Yes.
It's the reason I asked, yes, Jerry?
I'd like to know if you want for our website to just link to the YouTube video or to actually embed it into our webpage.
Link to it.
Just link to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll add that
Makes it
to the
easier.
motion.
Thank you.
Link to website. The reason I'm asking this question is that it becomes whoever's going to manage this. Bruce hasn't volunteered to do that, so we need someone that's going to manage this. If each thing has to be on there for a month, then you're going to have a tremendous number of overlaps. So
Well,
somebody's going to have to really pay attention, because if we get into a habit of doing something, we're already under the scrutiny of a number of people. And if they start seeing that, well, why isn't this on there? Because you blew it by a week.
well, but we are going to eventually be once a month,
Well, hopefully.
sooner
Bruce.
than later.
Well, I'm volunteering to do this, and I think what I would like to do is I will start from July, and I'll put on as many as I can, and I'll hopefully in a couple weeks I'll get caught up to where we are. And what I really would be the easiest for me, I think, is when I put a new one on, I'll take the last one off. So they'd be on there for 3 months probably. Because you're just sending out your newsletters now, so you've got how many meetings on there that people need to go through, and I think we should leave them up for a while this first go around, and then
That's not a bad suggestion.
and you know, because there's a lot of material there to go through.
Let me reword my motion.
Can I jump in before you?
Okay.
I'd be interested in Bruce putting on some of the videos before we make the motion of what we're going to do. I'm just a little concerned about the size of those videos and how they may actually end up working. Go ahead.
Well, I've been researching this, and I finally found a program that even I can work. And all I do is I pull up my YouTube page and I go to browse, and then when I pull up my video, it has what I'm posting it to: Facebook, Twitter. I didn't look at them. I went, oh, YouTube, and I clicked the YouTube button, and it went, and it posted, and it was a 2.6 gig movie, and I think it was 800 gigabytes when it came up on the YouTube site.
800 megs.
So it doesn't change any content. It just changes the resolution. See, and I'm recording it in YouTube resolution now. And that's why you guys had to scoot together, because it doesn't pick up that wide of. But the ones I'm putting on are shrinking down to a manageable size. So.
Was that your question, Ken?
I'd still like to, I think,
Yeah, let's
get
mess
some
with
on
it.
there before we make a motion about what we're gonna do and see how well it works.
Wanted to do the first one and then review it?
Or if Bruce puts on half a dozen, it gives us opportunity to take a look and
Yeah.
gives some other people maybe opportunity to try it out and find out, well, I don't have a fast enough connection to make it work very well,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
Will
We
you-
would still need to instruct him as to what we'd like him to do.
I have a question. As you're putting a big group on from July to now, how are you going to drop off the older ones? Because you've got a big volume coming in.
I just go by date posted, and I take the last one, I click on it, and it's got a pane that comes down, and it gives me edit, remove, delete, you know.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is, if you're doing a rotational thing, if you post a weekly, month, and a monthly, they'll be on there for 3 months.
Yeah.
So you multiply that by 4 months. That's gonna take quite a while before you get caught up. And how are you planning on doing that?
I just found this yesterday, and it says I can put on 2 videos a day. So,
But I'm saying, if we want to ever get into the procedure of having it drop off every 90 days, one will drop off.
when I put that new one on, I'll just go to the top of the list and take the first one off.
You're gonna have a backlog of 4 months.
How? Nothing's
He's only
backlog.
gonna take off the very first one. If
32.
he adds one, he takes off the oldest one.
Well, yeah, but I think you guys are missing the point I'm trying to make here. Is, okay, if you're on a current month, it's gonna take 90 days before you even drop off one of those, right?
The weekly
We're
one.
gonna put on
That's the
4 months
suggestion.
worth. What is that gonna back us off to? Think back a little bit.
Well, every 90 days, the first one goes away.
Yeah, but it's 4 months old.
No, it's only 90 days old. Every 90 days, the first one goes away.
Yeah, but we're also moving along and adding to it, so the question still remains, you've got this block of 4 months worth of videos that you're gonna post. And if the last one's going to drop off, you're still gonna maintain that volume of 4 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just do
Okay.
a calendar entry.
yeah.
To
It's
yourself.
simple to do.
Okay.
You just
Yeah,
take off the oldest one.
I thought the intent was to drop off one on a 3-month cycle.
We don't know what we want to do yet, George.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
Well,
And we will eventually get to just once a month. We will get there,
Yeah.
honestly. Are you putting the web page, the link to the YouTube on the web page? We'll be able to,
I will send it to Jerry, and he
okay,
can,
so we'll be able to.
so I'll send him an email with the URL, and he can post it on the link.
All right,
And he'll have to make a, you know, he'll have a list,
right.
just like your minutes. And they'll be able to go to whatever
Whatever date.
week.
Sure.
And I'm gonna designate between regular and special. Because there's a place for a date and a notation. And that notation is gonna be special or regular. And then it has which is Lookingglass Rural Oregon, and that's the name of the YouTube site. And I think it'll be pretty simple. I mean, when we get 3 months out, there'll be 3 videos on there. After we get done with the weekly meetings,
Right.
there'll be 3 videos, and we can wipe that out at that 3-month point, because I don't think they need to be up any longer than that.
No, no.
I think you just answered my question.
Yeah.
So I should go back and motion.
Well, let's wait and see what happens. We'll be here next
But
week.
no, I was gonna say, I'd make a motion that you can go ahead and put the videos on YouTube, and then we'll see how it works.
Yeah. That works.
Yes,
We'll
Barb.
also be able to see how many hits they've gotten.
Mhm.
And so when those start tapering off, then, you know,
I don't know if
those
there's
people aren't.
a counter on it or
looking
not.
at it anymore.
Yeah, but I'm making a motion to give him permission, basically, is what I'm doing, so,
I'll second it.
Starting July 10th.
yes.
I went the one before, but that's okay.
No.
Have a second for that?
George did, yes. Yvonne has a question.
Do you need to put that anywhere in your manual that you're gonna make recordings and put them on YouTube or anything like that, do you think?
It wouldn't hurt anything to have a blurb in there somewhere.
Well, we could, but we already
That's
have.
easy enough.
Something that you're, I'm not gonna say you're adopting, but you are discussing.
It's establishing a policy.
Right,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, we could do that.
But we won't have to do that until we decide that this is working. But
Right.
yes,
right.
that should be in there.
But
I agree.
why not?
An amendment.
Yes.
So am I covered under this policy you guys have?
Mhm.
Any other good of the order stuff? Any?
Well, we didn't
We
vote.
didn't vote on that
We
motion.
didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Just too busy writing notes. Public Q&A? Any questions, anybody? No. Motion to adjourn to start licking and sticking?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Yeah. Second?
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.